Roeder. Present. Senator Desalia. Present. Senator Dejan. Present. Senator Frankel. Present. Senator Gabrielli. Present. Senator Gensky. Present. Senator Gordon. Present. Senator Heredia. Present. Senator Hirschman. Present. Senator Su. Present. Senator Joel Harlow. Present. Senator Kavusi. Present. Senator Lee. Present. Senator Nangangar. Present. Senator Naveed. Present. Senator Nguyen. Present. Senator Pritzkat. Present. Senator Perry. Present. Senator Ramesh. Present. Senator Zhang. Present. Thank you. Next on the agenda is to adopt the agenda, so I would like to entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Seconded.
Any objections? With no objections, sorry. With no objections, the motion is adopted by unanimous consent. Next on the agenda is the ASUC State of the Association. Let's introduce President Pavan Upadhyayula.
Welcome, fellow students, esteemed faculty and staff, and guests. As we look forward to our goals for the coming year, it is important for us to look backwards, to understand our roots. Beginning as a land-grant institution, Berkeley was built to educate generations of scholars and leaders, teaching them to serve and contribute to their community. This public mission is the backdrop upon which students, faculty, staff, and administration have pushed the boundaries of education. Bridging the gap between the academic and experiential sides of learning is this commitment to a higher ideal that brings us together as one community. The Associated Students of the University of California was an instrumental part of this growth of the student population. Founded in 1887, our organization's mission is to advance the common interests of students, increase participation in student activism, and finally serve the student body. This mission has seen numerous realizations through the free speech movement, divestment during South African apartheid, and cultivating a new student union in Lower Sproul. A common theme that resonates between these different student movements is the idea of community. It is through community and collective action that the ASUC can bring students' needs to the forefront. As all the campus faces increasing financial and political pressure, our strength lies in our ability to cultivate dialogue on difficult issues, embracing ideals of free speech together. The need for collective action and collective support is obvious when we consider the number of difficult issues our campus faces. Student mental health and physical safety are of pressing concern. With rising number of students reporting psychological distress, we need, as a campus, to work creatively, considering peer support counseling, mental health awareness, disability policies, residential hall wellness programming, counseling, and disciplinary policies and more, to ensure that all of our students receive the resources they need to thrive. Our sexual assault policies, as they stand, do not reflect the caring culture required for every student to feel safe on this campus. Rising tuition costs and disinvestment by the state strain our ability to maintain our public character and strengthen our diversity. These pressures threaten the very identity of UC Berkeley itself. Without security from both these internal and external forces, we might fail ourselves as well as the communities we represent. We recognize that only by collaborating, communicating, and working together will students, administrators, staff, and faculty realize our best, a healthy campus community assertive in our foundational values of public service, teaching, and research. As we begin our work in the new year, we recognize we are tied to an entire campus community. As the campus enters a time of change, we hope to be seen as partners with valuable insight into the student experience, both as students in the classroom and as teachers of what the Berkeley experience really means today. We welcome all our campus partners to engage in this dialogue with us with an open mind and a commitment to learn. As we shift our focus to the new undergraduate experience initiative and its importance to student life, a reimagining of student input into decision-making processes is necessary. It is becoming increasingly clear that decisions are not being made in the context of social, political, and collaborative partnerships that have been the hallmark of our success. There is no substitute for the transparent process that as a university, our goal is not to prioritize numbers and spreadsheets, but instead to focus on the students and their experiences. There is no substitute for partnership and collaboration, a two-way street built upon mutual trust. There is no substitute for the student voice. This year, the ASUC is working together unlike any before, and the culture we are creating is one of camaraderie and cooperation. This new culture that we have created within the ASUC will direct the culture of the student union to create a new student identity. The goal of the new student union in Lower Sproul mirrors the goal of the ASUC. It is not a money-making piece of real estate, but instead a space for students to come together, develop ideas, and maximize their Berkeley experience. Future students in this space will be able to look at their differences not as points of division, but instead as new opportunities to engage with their peers. We have collectively understood that we must aggressively address the issues that face our campus. My office, in concert with the rest of the ASUC, is creating a peer wellness program where students can help educate fellow students about wellness, focusing on creating healthy attitudes today that will further impact student lives after graduation. We are working to address campus climate issues by engaging in real dialogue over the most difficult issues that face communities. It is our goal to bring non-traditional students and their experiences into the mainstream conversations in order to consider the diverse experiences of our student body. We are engaging in a large-scale programming to increase awareness of the ASUC, its mission, and its results in order to increase transparency and engagement with the student body at large. Our purpose is to facilitate the difficult conversations students face and to enable them to build lasting relationships amongst each other, the faculty, and the staff at our university. Cultivating these relationships will take time and effort, but through a belief in shared governance, we can overcome any challenge we may face. This collaborative relationship will empower more students to change our university for the better, advancing a legacy a century and a half in the making. As the ASUC, we are forging a new relationship with administration to elevate the conversation of our public mission from a stated objective to a central goal. Through collaboration, we will achieve what has eluded our individualized efforts in the past, a renewed commitment to the community of the University of California. Now, more than ever, we must rely on each other to ensure that we can keep our university strong. It is up to us to ensure that our promises to the student body and greater community are fulfilled. We invite our campus administration, faculty, staff, and students to partner together in creating and sustaining these values of community and cooperation, so we may move forward together in difficult times. Thank you all for coming.
Before we move on to the next part of our agenda, I would like to remind the audience that public comment cards are on the side. Just please bring them up to Alec right here. And with that, we'll move on to the Dean of Students, Joseph Greenwell.
Hello. My name is Joseph Greenwell. I'm the Associate Vice Chancellor and Dean of Students. I'm 4.5 months old as a Cal Bear. And I've been asked to kind of speak kind of my approach in working with and partnering with students. And so I've thought about this a little bit. I'm not going to have written remarks and be as eloquent as our president. But I thought to kind of talk a little bit about myself and where I come from, because it really grounds me in my work. I am originally from Kentucky, a small town in rural Kentucky. It's called Bardstown, and grew up on a farm. Well, I like to call it a farmette. It was 10 acres. Most people who are from real farms would not call it a farm. But my grandparents lived a mile away and had a significant farm of about 150 acres. And I worked on that farm from when I could walk until I fled to college. And I share that because working on a farm really taught me that you have to work together on a common good, that if one person is not holding their own or not looking out for each other, then oftentimes you're not going to be successful. It's really hard work. The hours are not 8 to 5, and you really need to do something to accomplish the goal together as a team. And that time, actually, even though it was hard work, was really rewarding, because it created a different type of a relationship with me and my family in working on that farm. I did leave the farm. I enjoy visiting it now, but I'm more of a city person at heart. I went to, the next thing I would talk about, because you don't want to hear my whole life, that was a big point of my life is, and I've thought about sharing this or not, and I shared this with Pavan earlier. So I also kind of struggled a little bit in my own kind of identities and who I am and how I fit in as a student. This first happened to me in high school. I went to private school. My dad worked as on the docks of Jim Beam Distillery as a shipper, and they saved all their money to allow us to go to private school. I was very privileged in that respect. Education was important to them. Neither of them graduated from college. And so we, in high school, when I had that opportunity, I went from 8th grade to 9th grade, not knowing a whole lot of people. I was struggling with my identity. I am a gay man. It took me over a decade to realize that in myself. And I didn't have that connection, with high school. I didn't fit in any of the pockets. My first year of high school, I tried and tried and tried. I felt very alone and dealt with some mental health issues of my own, and then ultimately I attempted suicide my second semester of my high school freshman year. And I share that, and I've only recently shared that because there's a stigma around mental health. There's a stigma regarding, feeling and to a point that you try something as drastic as attempted suicide. And I've been sharing that story only recent, and actually it was at one of the last events I was at SF State that I felt comfortable to share that. And I share that because when I look back, that was a pivotal time in my career, because one, I understand when things get so tough, that people go, how can you even contemplate that? I understand how tough things can get in those spaces you can get. But the flip side of that is that was such a pivotal time because I've experienced so much life since then. And I've seen my nieces, my nephew who was just born, I have this position, I've met you, all these things that could never have been if that was successful. And I think that's an important thing for people to understand, and that even when things are toughest, that you can get through them. I'll move forward to college. I went to Vanderbilt University. I was the only person who went. Struggled academically. I was decent in high school. I wouldn't even say I was the best at high school, but everyone else at Vanderbilt was the best at high school. And so I really struggled. In my first year, I flunked. Well, I was almost flunking a class. I got a tutor. Didn't feel connected to the institution. My advisor didn't like me. And at the end of my freshman year, told me that Vanderbilt was not an appropriate place for me, and I shouldn't come back. So again, struggling and trying to figure my way out, I left Vanderbilt not thinking I was coming back. I learned then that to heck with my advisor, my GPA was high enough to get my scholarship. So I came back, and it took time, but over time, I got to where I was on the dean's list. I got engaged in campus in various entities, student organizations, Greek life, orientation. And I actually, when I didn't know anyone in my first year because of orientation, I knew almost half the campus by the time I left as a senior. So, and I share that because, again, that grounds my work in kind of understanding the challenges of students coming into an environment and needing those support mechanisms to be successful. And then just to finalize, as far as some of my path, it wasn't until after college that I even came out to myself as a gay man. So I was 23 years old. I started that process in 8th grade. And so I understand what it means to hide your identities, through your college and not feeling comfortable within your own skin in order to do that. My approach in working with students and partnering with students is that I believe, anytime that we're doing work that touches students, that voice should be there. I believe that students need to inform us. I can say I empathize with certain students because of my experiences, but that was 20 years ago. So as the Dean of Students, it's imperative for me to understand what the student experience is today with social media and technology and just life. And it's also important for me to understand what that student experience is here at a unique institution such as Berkeley, and to partner with the ASUC, amongst other entities throughout the campus, and students in order to continue to enhance the student experience here. As a point of just a couple of examples, I'm leading the SPI, the Strategic Planning Initiative for Students on Belonging and Caring, Belonging and Community. And that group is actually, I didn't realize what was going on when I was doing it, but it's actually predominantly students. It's 54 people, predominantly students. And I've actually, in thinking about moving forward, have asked both the president of GA and the president of ASUC to actually co-chair that group with me. Because that is going to really launch and talk about what the student experience is in moving forward. So I believe in partnership in regarding the student and the student experience, but that partnership needs to go both ways as well. I've been in situations where students don't want to partner. They want to dictate, or they want to not work together, right? And so, and that's all good. And we have those conversations. So how does this look, and how do we work? But I think that partnership is really, really important. I think it's important. When I was a student, I did not know my dean of students at Vanderbilt University. Actually, I did know him. I just didn't know what he did or who he was. So it's important for me as dean of students for students to know who I am. There's a reason I wear a bow tie every day. I do have normal ties. They haven't been worn in a while since I came here. I want students to be able to identify me and not feel uneasy coming up to me because they're not quite sure if that's me because my hair looks a little different, or I'm ultra swaggy that day, or whatever might be happening. And so I think it's imperative to connect with students where they are, to participate in their activities, and to engage with them in every way. You can follow me on Twitter, Dean Greenwell. You can experience my experience via virtual world or Facebook. I've been actually very surprised how many students have friended me on Facebook, because some people are like, oh, I don't know if the dean needs to see my Facebook, but people are doing that. And that, just so you know, is to share information and kind of doing that. I'm super excited about being the Dean of Students at UC Berkeley. I've been very impressed not only by the incredible student and student leaders, but the incredible staff that supports our students. And I'm looking forward to partnering with all of you in various capacities in the upcoming years. Thank you.
So before we move on, I'd like to remind senators to put away their laptops to respected speakers. Next on the agenda is the student region, who unfortunately could not make it today, so please reach out to her in our office for any questions that you might have. Next up, we have the ASUC Student Union.
Hello everyone, I was here last week. My name is Susie Halp. I'm the Director of Operations for the ASUC Student Union. We have Dr. Jamie Riley, for the Director of Lead Center, and Tiffany Dwyer, Director of Marketing. So we're going to do a little tag team. Hope you'll appreciate it. I'm going to get pretty excited about the Wheeler Late Night program. Starts on Monday, September 15th. Yeah, I want to hear it. I want to hear it. Yeah. It's the first time your student group will be able to reserve classrooms in Wheeler Monday through Thursday from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. We're excited about this program. Please come out. You can come out and just say hi to Javier, who's working at the table, and just tell him thanks for everything you do. We'd appreciate it if you're around Wheeler on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. The event services team, that also reports to me, is holding a free event planning 101 session tomorrow from 10:30 to 11:30. You can sign up online. But if any of your constituencies or you want to learn how to plan an event successfully, this is a group of people you need to talk to. I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Jamie Riley about Elite Center.
How's it going, Senators? All right. Thank you. It's all about the love. Couple updates from the Lead Center. It's our 14th annual Leadership Symposium. Leadership Symposium, Lead Simp, is a one-day conference where new and emerging student leaders can develop their leadership skills by setting themselves up for success as a student leader. It's actually on September 20th at 9 a.m. The day is filled with educational workshops, TED Talks, networking with other students, and an amazing keynote speaker, Jason Jaggard. He'll be talking about creating sparks, our opportunities where we can choose extraordinary leadership. And he's the CEO and founder of Spark Good. Registration is currently open, and you can go to the Lead Center website to register. There is a $10 deposit, which students get back once they participate. So it's just holding a space and ensure that you'll show up to get your money back. So that is on our website. Attending the conference includes a t-shirt, awesome leadership information, and as we all love, free food. So that's what's going on with leadership. As far as student organizations are concerned, this is the last week for student organizations to participate in re-registration. Student organization re-registration is taking place now through the 13th, which is Saturday. Signatory orientation and the signatory quiz are also part of the re-registration process, in which we've had some groups who have not completed those pieces, and they can schedule a session if they do miss the deadline. Information about that can be found on our website. Just so you know, we currently have, which is actually really good for this being the first month or so of school, over 650 organizations that have been approved and successfully completed the process in Cali. And we have a couple new groups, more groups who are waiting to update constitutions and things of that nature. And as of today, we have 43 requests for new student organizations to join the student org community on campus. We have done as a team close to 30 signatory in-person orientations with over 600 students participating in those trainings so far. And these trainings now include information and resources on sexual assault, alcohol and drugs, mental health, and diversity and inclusion. So we've updated the training that student orgs go through and the conversations they have. Regarding fraternities and sororities, some general updates. In partnership with the Center for Student Conduct, a Greek peer review board was created to hear low-level conduct cases by trained Cal Greeks members. So it's a peer review board from peers that will hear cases, low-level cases, for Cal Greeks community. And we'd like to also congratulate, this is from Brandon, the 6 Cal Greek senators that we plan to work with this year to help improve the experience of the Cal Greek community. Some other things to share. Greek Carnival, which was on August 25th, was one of the largest Greek carnivals we've ever had. There were over 5,000 new and returning students who participated in that. IFC Info Night, risk and social risk management training had over 100 chapter leaders that came together for 2-hour training on diversity, sexual assault, responsible alcohol management, and working with the city. Multicultural Greek Council also had Info Night. Pan-Hellenic Fall Formal Recruitment recruited 530 new members into the Pan-Hellenic sororities, and Black Student Group Day / NPHC Yard Show. The campus community was invited and got to see some of the talents in the community come together in solidarity. So, we have anything? All right, so Tiffany is going to come up and finish some more of our announcements.
5 minutes left.
Okay, I'll talk quick. You know I talk quick anyway. How's it going, Senators? Good? Yeah? I have no swag to bring this time, so forgive me. All right, so staffing and hiring updates. For event services, they are hiring a student event planning intern. If you guys are interested, please send your resume, cover letter, and class schedule to Nikta Murati at niktamurati@berkeley.edu. Refer to the position description, Callisto or Work Study. That's where you'll find it. And then finally, lastly, the final update, update I'm excited about. The topping out ceremony. All right, because I want to see all your pretty names all over that beam. So that will be happening October 14th. I just want to reiterate that date. It'll be happening between 10 and 1:30. I want to break down that timing a little bit. I'll be sending you all a save the date, so hopefully you guys can send it to your peers, contacts, whoever. I just want to get the word out. My team's doing our part and trying to send this thing wherever we can, so if you guys can help spread the word, we'd really appreciate it. So from 10 to 1, the beam signing will be happening. I want to stress on October 14th, if you're not able to sign the beam that day, we also have 3 additional days to sign the beam the week prior. So that will be Wednesday through Friday, I don't know, the week before October 14th, whatever. Yeah, whatever. Wednesday through Friday from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. So we'll have the beam out there in the, we call it the carpet of Lower Sproul, so that's outside Zellerbach, so the beam will be up there. So anyway, so from 10 to 1 on October 14th, the beam signing. From 12:30 to 1 p.m. will actually be our speaking session. We'll have ceremony acknowledgements and free treats. I always got to stress the free treats part. From 1 to 1:15 will be the actual beam placement. So I'm trying to work with Justin right now from the Lead Center to see if we can have some taiko drummers or something drum while we actually put the beam in place, which is pretty exciting. And then from 1:15 to 1:30, we hope to have a live entertainment piece. So we're finalizing the schedule as we speak, but just please be sure to spread to your contacts October 14th for this. It's going to be a huge deal. We're trying to get some big time speakers there as well. So yeah, snaps, maybe, yeah. And that's all I got. Questions?
3 minutes for questions. Senator Pritzcott.
Hi, thank you all for coming. I know you all were here last week too, so I appreciate it. Are you able to give us insight as to when ASUC Student Union Executive Director Kelsey Finn will be able to come and speak to us? So you get to hear from her. So I'd be helpful.
Kelsey's had some issues, but she'll be here next week, we hope so. She's had some medical issues, she had some surgery recently, so it's a medical issue, that's why she's not here. So she hopes to be here next week, and she will be the person giving the report.
Any other questions? Okay, let's thank Student Union. Now we invite Dan Mogilov to the stage, please.
It's a long walk. Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for having me in. My name is Dan Mogilov. I'm the Assistant Vice Chancellor in the Office of Public Affairs and Communications. And in that capacity, I work with the Chancellor and the Provost and other members of the senior leadership team on communications and centrally to our meeting tonight, and the theme that Pavan laid down so beautifully, engagement. Chancellor Dirks, unfortunately, is traveling abroad. He is overseas right now on university business. I talked to him yesterday. I know he regrets not being here. And I know that in the wake of the Dean's comments, he would have one word to say: amen. The idea of community, as many of you know, was central to his convocation address. He is somebody who, in his very first speech to this campus when he arrived, talked about the fact that we are all in this together. And I have been here long enough to see what it looks like when the administration and students and faculty are butting heads, and about the way and how progress slows down and everybody loses. And conversely, I have seen what happens, what it looks like when we work together based on our shared interests and our shared commitment to this institution. And you probably don't need me to tell you that it's a whole lot better and a whole lot more constructive and a whole lot more productive and meaningful for everybody involved. Will we have differences? Will there be differences with the administration and parts of the ASUC and all of the ASUC, or parts of the student body or all the student body? You bet. And the key is how we handle those times of difference. Mom and apple pie, the easy things, that's all good. Cal Day, everybody's happy. No controversy around things like that. But there will be times when we have disagreements, and it's how we handle those that will be the test of the ideals and the values that the President described in his address today. So that's really it. I'd be happy to take a few questions, any questions about current issues on campus,
about things related to the Chancellor's office or things you're just wondering about campus issues in general.
Questions? Senator Pittscott.
Thank you for coming. I was wondering if you had any response or a comment on some of the controversy that Senator Dirks' letter has received in regards to the free speech movement and his comments on civility.
Yeah, actually, thanks for asking. I do have some comments about that in effect. First of all, it's a fascinating lesson in what happens when a message gets decontextualized. So this was a message to a campus community about a campus community. It was also, interestingly, a message that goes out from Berkeley chancellors every fall, and it never aroused any attention in the past. Now, Chancellor Dirks did add some words to it. So let me just state a few things there. First of all, it is based on our principles of community. In the context of this university, civility has a very specific meaning, and it has nothing to do with the content of speech. It seeks only to ask all of us to consider the consequences of how our beliefs are delivered. At the end of the day, the Chancellor believes that if you want to be vitriolic in your speech, so be it. That is your decision. But accept and understand the possible consequences. If we want students to engage with the debates and dialogues of the day, if we want students to engage in debates and dialogues about divisive issues, then I would ask you, what tone and tenor best facilitates that engagement? That was the crux of the Chancellor's message. He, like every chancellor, he's not a stupid guy. We know this. He would have to be, to even think as chancellor of UC Berkeley that he had the ability, much less the means or motivation, to clamp down on the content of anyone's speech here. That was the last thing on his mind. And what it simply was a request that in the context of the free speech movement's 50th anniversary, that we all think about how we deliver our messages, how we engage with each other. Again, a message to a campus community about a campus community. No commentary on what's happening in Illinois, no commentary on faculty beliefs, but simply reinforcing the same idea that Pavan brought up in his speech and that Nick Dirks talked about in his convocation address. If we are a community, there are consequences when we abandon civility. But again, it's the individual's choice about how the message is delivered and the content of that message, and it's essential. I expect you'll be hearing more from him about this, and I think also we're starting to see among faculty a realization that, you know, there were certain ideological bloggers that took that message and poured their own fears and anxieties into it without regard for the fact that it was a message between a chancellor and his community, and not any sort of attempt to squelch free speech, least of all in the context of an institution that's celebrating the 50th anniversary of one of the most important events in our history. So, Senator, does that answer your questions and concerns there? Okay. Anybody else?
Any other questions? Senator Cavusi, and then Senator Broder.
Hi, thank you again for coming to speak to us. I just wanted to know if there were any updates on Kathy Koshland's undergraduate experience initiative and if there has been any effort to include undergraduates on that committee, because that is something that concerns all of us very deeply.
So this is a great question, and it's completely germane and relevant, and in fact I talked with her about this yesterday. I'll tell you quite honestly, I was a little concerned when I heard initially. So I'm susceptible to rumors like everybody else. I was a little concerned when I heard that there may not be any or in an insufficient degree of undergraduate representation on the task force or any of the subcommittees. I can assure you that she told me in no uncertain terms there will be slots for undergraduates, and not just because she wants to check that box and do something symbolic, because I know, and I've known Kathy for 10 years, she understands that the quality of the product that will come out of the work of those groups will be severely undermined if the student voice isn't present and isn't heard and isn't taken into account. So I want to assure you that there will be seats at those tables for undergraduates.
And regarding the curriculum, because she did say in regards to the undergraduate social experience, she would include undergraduates eventually, but I mean about like the actual structuring of the curriculum.
My understanding, it's across the board. I think the only thing that she's trying to navigate, and that you need to, folks need to contact her directly, is that there is some faculty desire to have some sort of initial meeting where it's just faculty and her. I don't quite understand that, but it's going to be a single one-off meeting. But my sense in terms of her values, and it's a complicated environment. I mean, there is shared governance with faculty. They have very specific views. They're obviously an extremely important stakeholder group, no less important than students, of course. And so she's navigating between those. But based on what I heard, her values or intentions lined up, I believe, with exactly what your own hopes and desires would be in this regard.
I hope so too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Broder.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for being here tonight. I just wanted to check in and see how progress is going on the Guild Track development and see, there was recently a letter published by some faculty members that was pretty threatening towards students that are working as activists to prevent the development of all 20 acres of the farm. So I just wanted to check in and see what was going on with that, what is happening with capital projects, and when the development might be starting so that student activism isn't being crushed.
So we may need a whole other discussion for this because the Guild Tract is an extraordinarily complicated issue, but I'm not going to dodge it, and I'm going to do my best in a very short amount of time. But I can almost guarantee you that I'll leave all of you, no matter your perspectives, unsatisfied because it is complicated. So first of all, the development is proceeding. I want to emphasize for those who aren't familiar with the project that the development plans for that parcel of land, which is a vacant lot, which has not been farmed in anybody's recent memory. I want to stress that. The lot that's slated for development has not been farmed since at least the beginning of the 20th century. In that regard, all of Berkeley used to be farmland. So that's number one. Number two, the plans for developing that lot were developed over the course of 7 years of engagement with the community. And I can tell you right now that this university has no intention of disenfranchising the citizens of Albany who participated with us in a joint planning process over the course of 7 years, and who ensured that the ultimate plans that resulted reflected their needs, desires, and wishes. At the same time, the university has moved to dedicate 1.5 acres of the land that is fertile and that does support farming, and has dedicated that to urban farming and has opened the doors to participation by students and members of the community. Number four, the revenue that will come from the development of that vacant lot will be used for 2 key purposes. One, to subsidize rent for low-income students who live in Albany Village, and number 2, to subsidize the very urban agriculture program that advocates have been seeking for a long time. This to us is what a win-win-win looks like. And this to us is one of the things the university is being forced to do in the context of state disinvestment. We have competing goals and values. Keeping rents low for low-income students, you better believe that's a value and a goal. Providing land so students interested in experiential learning and urban farming, that's a value and a goal. Being good neighbors to the people of Albany and honoring the democratic process they participated in, that's a goal. It's tough to balance. You will all see, I believe, as you get more involved, Pavan talked about shared governance, as you get more involved in the complicated issues of the university, it's tough, it's complicated. We have a lot of stakeholders. We do our best to keep everybody happy, but at the end of the day, it's not possible. So the bottom line, the development plans are proceeding. I'm sorry I don't know about the faculty letter you're referring to. I can only say that if there was something threatening that was sent, that would be entirely unfortunate, but I can't pass judgment on a document that I haven't seen. So that's the update as far as what's happening there.
Do you have a specific date that development might be starting? Do you have a specific date development might be starting?
I really don't know. So there's a whole process. You do RFQs, you look for bids, you look for proposals. I think there's one last legal hurdle. I think there's an appeal. There was a lawsuit that was filed against the city of Albany. I think they lost that lawsuit, but I think they may be appealing. So, this is in the hands of lawyers and contractors, and anybody who's worked with lawyers and contractors knows that it's impossible to predict.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you very much. And again, I know that the Chancellor Durst looks forward to appearing before you, to engaging with you, to working with you in the year ahead. And we're all looking forward to a fabulous year here. So thank you very much and congratulations.
So next on the agenda is public comment. We actually didn't get any cards, but if anyone in the audience wants to speak for 2 minutes, please come up to the podium. Okay. Next on the agenda is Executive Officer Reports. Let's introduce External Affairs Vice President Caitlin Quinn to the stage.
Hi everyone, thanks to all y'all in the back that stuck it out through all that. Y'all the real MVPs. So this year is a really big year for us, whether we're students, workers, faculty, staff, administrators, or otherwise members of this campus community. It's been 50 years since the free speech movement, 45 years since the Third World Liberation Front, 30 years since the movement to divest from South African apartheid, 18 years since Prop 209, 8 years since the Count Me In campaign, and 3 years since Occupy movement, my very first semester here at Cal. Each one of those movements has forever altered the landscape of the University of California, Berkeley. The ASUC is 127 years old this year, which means it was already well established when both of my maternal great-grandmothers were here at Cal. Yeah, great-grandmothers. For context, the ASUC was founded 32 years before UCLA, the school, not their student government. Senators, you learned our story at SLI, but I would encourage everyone else in the audience to go to our website and learn more about our history. Because with our age comes our autonomy. We are by far the most autonomous student government in the country, and trust me, I know. From my work with the UC Students Association and the United States Student Association, I have seen student governments that are reminiscent of a high school ASB, student governments that are never in the same rooms as their administrators, and student governments that literally have to fight their university for pennies. What does that mean for the rest of us? That means that we cannot take our history, our herstory, our story for granted. This year, as the 50th anniversary of the free speech movement, we must continue that tradition by remembering to exercise free speech. We need to have the hard conversations in this room, and I know they'll be hard in here. I was here last year. And we also need to bring them out of this room and back into the communities, that voted for you and put you here. That means no matter how much it makes the people in California halls squirm, we have the agency, ability, and duty to talk about issues like a mass deporter as the UC president, abysmal treatment of sexual assault survivors on this campus, and the endless attempts to water down the demands of the Third World Liberation Front. At the end of the day, the ASUC is just an institution, and it's an institution that a lot of students are critical of. But let us do our part to take risks and make hard asks on behalf of students. Use your title and your office to build student power. Bring students along to your meetings. Show them what you're actually doing. The more students you all can connect to the ASUC, the more students we can connect to the larger student movement. And that student movement is across the state, across the country, and across the world. Y'all saw the student protests in Chile. Student protests across the world have made a lot more change than we might think here in the United States. So even if you don't feel like you are a part of the student movement, I promise you are, especially here at UC Berkeley. Students I meet from across the state know things going on our campus that I barely know about. They ask me about different bills coming through ASUC Senate. They ask me about things like operational excellence. You would be amazed at how much we are in the limelight. And we take it for granted because we read the Daily Cal, since that's our newspaper, but so do a lot of other schools and a lot of other people across the country. But remember that you're a part of the student movement. Faculty did not vote for us. Staff did not vote for us. Administrators definitely did not vote for us. Students voted for us. Students put us here in this room. We are not here to be accountable to administrators who shut the doors on our predecessors. We are not here to be accountable to politicians who try and puppet us for their own self-interest. We are not here to be accountable to the goddamn UC Regents who keep trying to raise our tuition when they're not making our university any better. We are here, as we have been here for 127 years, to advocate for the student body's needs on and off campus. No one else on this campus or in the government can do that for us nearly as well as we can do that for ourselves. So please, let's continue the ASUC's legacy of being respected, valued, and even feared on this campus, locally and globally. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Next, we have the Academic Affairs Vice President, Chief of Staff, Dana Moman.
Hi, everyone. Apologies if my voice is a little shaky. I haven't been on a stage like this since I was in the 11th grade production of The Crucible, so I'm a little bit nervous. I was Reverend Hale, thank you. But yeah, first off, I want to thank y'all for giving me this opportunity to give this special report to all of you tonight. It really is a privilege, given that I am not and never ever intend to be an ASUC executive. So as a really enthusiastic person who's inexplicably passionate about this office, and that's really all I am, and I've made a lot of observations during my strange time in it, I really appreciate this chance to talk a little bit about academic affairs at UC Berkeley and our association's involvement in them. The entire ASUC, with the leadership of the AAVP office, and whoever the new AAVP will be, needs to be engaged in academic and administrative affairs at UC Berkeley. It needs to be. Yes, this sounds really cliche and predictable coming from the AAVP office, but it cannot be emphasized enough. And we're very lucky to have an AAVP office. Not all student governments have an office strictly dedicated to academic affairs, but it's time for this office to be utilized fully and strategically. And when I say engaged in academic affairs, I mean more than sitting quietly in our 1 or 2 spots on the committee tables, which, as a reminder, students did have to fight to get. I mean being the loudest advocates at the table, and maybe securing some more seats along the way. We'll talk about that later. I mean working collaboratively, that's a popular word tonight, with our faculty and administrators, but with an unceasingly critical perspective, unafraid to challenge the systems of power that marginalize our community, and they do exist here. In short, I mean being active partners in steering the direction of the university, this year and all years. Now, fostering and maintaining this type of engagement is not easy, but especially given the earth-shakingly consequential conversations being had by decision makers across campus, especially this year, it's really, really critical, y'all. Now, I hope you don't think I'm being like totally bombastic when I talk about these conversations, but because you all know that there's some really big stuff happening on campus this year. The Chancellor's Undergraduate Education Initiative, which has been mentioned several times tonight, seeks to fundamentally transform the undergraduate experience. This has great potential to make improvements that the ASUC, on behalf of the student body, because we are the representatives of the student body, have been asking for years. More personalized support for students, more improved advising, more inclusive classroom environments, and more critical curriculum. The ASUC has so much to offer to these conversations, which is why it's really surprising that our ASUC and GA presidents really had to advocate pretty fiercely to be included on the steering committee. I'm hopeful, based off of what I've heard tonight and in other conversations, that the ASUC will have a big role in the Chancellor's Undergraduate Initiative through intentional and tireless engagement. But I worry a little bit that our original omission from the initiative underscores the idea that the ASUC is not taken seriously as a campus stakeholder, and that is a problem. With many more quiet conversations happening in California and Stevens Halls that will have loud impacts on our communities, we cannot afford to not be taken seriously. We cannot afford to waste our seat at the table or let it be taken away. We have to be ready to advocate with greater force and intentionality than ever before. which is why I'm really, really excited that the AAVP office is reforming our committee rep accountability system, which will finally provide representatives with the information they need to be informed and confident advocates at the committee table, while providing the student body with the policy information they need to know. Senate, you are an active part of that role. Not only do you serve on committees, and I hope to see you at committee rep orientations next week, just saying. Read my exec report, please. But also in cultivating a relationship where our committee representatives are valued and you're giving them the information that they need and engaging them in your policy priorities as well. I was really happy to see that engaging academic senate and administrative reps was on your to-do list, your advocacy agenda to-do list. Thank you for that. That's awesome. Additionally, I'm excited to say that the really poppin' AAVP policy department is already drafting Senate bills on pressing academic issues so that the Senate can officially weigh in and develop united ASUC stances on university policy and priorities, as we do with so many other issues. And finally, by experimenting with innovative new projects like the Academic Assembly Project, we will engage more student voices and empower academic advocacy beyond the ASUC proper. And I hope that more interesting academically oriented projects will materialize out of the Senate, keeping attention and focus on shaping our education at Cal. So basically what I'm trying to say is we have a lot of potential to make change this year. We really, really do. It's a critical year, so let's get to work. Let's quickly and collaboratively appoint a new AAVP, because I'm really lonely in my office and I want somebody to talk to. And let's make our university better. Thank you very much.
Now we welcome Executive Vice President Justin Kong to the stage. Let's go to Student Advocate first. So let's introduce Student Advocate Rishi Ahuja.
That was quite a long walk. Hello all, my name is Rishi Ahuja, and I'm very fortunate to be up here as your student advocate for this coming year. So my goal today is to keep it brief, but talk a little bit about what my vision for this office is, where we were last year, and hopefully where we're going looking forward. Our office is a product of the free speech movement. We were created directly because of it. So to me, this is quite an auspicious time to be reflecting on what we envision to be. Looking at last year, we handled 172 individual student cases for students that had disputes with the university. And looking at this year, my priority is to continue that. Our office is best when we are informed and able to help individual students with their disputes, and that's what we look to continue, and that's how we hope to serve you all as a member of our student government. Looking at the student government as a whole in the ASUC, what I envision our role to be is a think tank on behalf of students. I envision us as people that are able to think about policies that will benefit the student population, figure out a way to craft them in a way that is beneficial for all, and to propose them to the administrators we work with. And that means that we have to come up with solutions, not only raise issues that we see in our day-to-day life or through our constituents. And I think that over the course of my time at the ASUC, I think we've done a great job of pointing to what the issues are, but not as great a job as pointing to how we can directly shape the policies we want to see in practice. And that's my vision for this role and our vision for the student government as a whole. For us all to be working together collaboratively, to be looking at how we can create policies that can have a sustainable effect on improving the student experience. So I'm going to keep it very brief. That is my goal for this year. That is my vision for our student government, and my vision for you all, to work together collaboratively to really find solutions, not just to raise the issues that we see on a day-to-day basis. Because quite frankly, we know the issues. What needs to be seen is how we're going to work together to try and solve them. Thank you so much.
And now again, we invite the Executive Vice President up to the stage.
Thank you, Alec. So my address will be given into two parts. The first part of my address will be about the EVP office. So for the first time in years, the EVP office of the ASUC will be dedicating its efforts largely on transparency and actually communicating with the student body. When I ran for this position, I emphasized that I want to bring the ASUC back to the students as the disconnect between the ASUC and the student body was a divide that has continuously grown throughout the years, and a divide that has largely been ignored by past ASUC leadership. This year, the Office of the Executive Vice President will focus on what it was intended to do. Effectively run the internal functions of the ASUC and maintain the multi-million-dollar 501c3 nonprofit that the ASUC is. This year, we will do an extensive analysis of our finances and investments and do record keeping. We will create a formalized infrastructure to maintain and transfer institutional knowledge between ASUC leadership. We will web stream Senate meetings to communicate to the student body, and we will bring ASUC leaders to interface with students on a daily basis through our tabling program. We will invest in the future of the ASUC through a completely reshaped and brand new internship program, support the retention and mental health of our internal ASUC leaders, and develop a sense of community and collaboration. And we will actually support the growth of a new generation of student leaders and organizations by creating an enriching, inclusive home for every student on this campus. And we will do all of this as one united ASUC. The second part of my address will be directed to all of you as a brand new Senate class. While looking to the past is imperative in understanding the context and history of the ASUC and our autonomy, we as the ASUC need to start looking to the future as well. Reflecting on Senate Leadership Institute, I cannot stress enough how mature and incredible you all were in discussing issues that have torn apart the ASUC and the student body for so many years. I hope that you carry the spirit of unity and respect into the Senate and throughout your terms. This Senate class has a unique opportunity to create history on this campus by actually working together to solve problems and discussing the real and tough issues that impact our student body. The role of the Senate is to talk about the issues that are not being discussed on this campus, and to be the official voice and representation of all 36,000 undergraduate and graduate students of this campus. For so long, the voices of students have been silenced in the Senate space, and many have argued that the Senate has become one that is not productive or capable of creating change on this campus. This will not be one of those years. We need to start having real dialogue about how our campus, we need to have real dialogue about our campus climate and how unsafe, marginalized students feel on this campus every single day. We need to talk about what real diversity on this campus looks like and how we can achieve it and how to support existing efforts of diversity on this campus. We need to talk about raising tuition and how the burden of student services is increasingly shifting to students' pockets. We need to talk about the health of our students mentally and holistically and how they are not being supported. We need to talk about the opening of the new Eshelman and the Lower Sproul. We need to talk about what the opening of the new Eshelman and Lower Sproul means in terms of students' relationships with administrators. And we need to talk about what real administrative accountability looks like and start demanding for student voices to be heard. I told you all at the very beginning of the Senate training that I will never let you settle, and that I will encourage all of you to think critically about issues that directly and indirectly impact students on this campus. Moving forward with this year, I want all of you to truly think about who you are as ASUC senators and the potential that you have in leaving a lasting mark on this campus as one united ASUC through the creation and preservation of our history. I hope that you all envision an even better future for the ASUC during your term and for future ASUC student leaders to come. Thank you. So, next on the agenda is appointed official reports. So let's invite Nidhi Kaul, the Judicial Council Chair. Is she here?
Hi everyone, thank you for having me. As Justin already mentioned, my name is Nidhi Kaul, and I am the Chief Justice for the Judicial Council. For those of you who don't know what the Judicial Council is, it serves as a form of checks and balances within the ASUC, and so we serve the purpose of I guess, being able to decide whether or not something has violated the ASUC regulations. That includes the ASUC Constitution, the ASUC bylaws, and any other governing documents. So I guess one of our main goals for this upcoming year is to be more accessible to all of students within UC Berkeley campus. If any students see that anything they believe is going wrong within the ASUC, they can feel free to contact us. Anyone can file a petition, and petitions can be found online at asuc.org under offices and judicial council. So let's see, I just wanted to really quickly address the process that goes on within the Judicial Council when someone approaches us with either a question, which is called an advisory opinion, or when they would like to have a hearing based on a contentious issue with another party. So what happens is a student will formally contact the Judicial Council with their petition, and we will either issue an advisory opinion or decide whether or not to have a hearing after accepting or rejecting their petition. Once that happens, a lot of them happen in the past year, so once that happens, we'll have a hearing. It's very similar to a mock trial or something that would happen in the Supreme Court, and I guess the final decision will be made. The decision will be released to the Daily Cal, to the public at large, and we'll also, I aim to have that go up on our website as well. So some final thoughts. We are also looking for ASUC interns within the Judicial Council, so I aim to have that to kind of spread our outreach within campus. We also are looking for a new justice in undergraduate level for, let's see, next month, because our ex-Chief Justice will be rolling off then. We're also looking for 3 graduate students, and so I would like to reach out to Senate and just ask all of you if you could maybe reach out to some graduate student associations that you maybe are associated with, or if you know anyone in those, then please reach out to them and ask them to apply to the Judicial Council, because last year we had an issue where we didn't have a full council, and I think that really impedes the checks and balances system within the ASUC. Thank you.
Next up, we have the Student Union Board Representative, Ishmael Contreras.
Hi, everyone. I don't have a speech like everyone else, but so far everything's been pretty inspiring. So just to outline a couple of things that I have planned out for the year for the board is to, like I mentioned when I initially applied for this position, is to maintain the increased transparency of what's going on at the board, making sure that the board is accountable as a whole, not just to the Senate, but also to students at large. Another thing that I really want to reinforce is the notion of shared governance within the board and making sure that students continuously maintain a majority on the board and its committees, and trying to get as much student input on the board and its decisions as possible. We had our board retreat on Monday, and some of the things that we discussed included laying out our short-term and long-term goals as a board. So for the next year, we'll be doing various things such as finalizing vendor selections, preparing policies and procedures for the new MLK and new Eshelman buildings, finalizing contracts for fall 2015, working on our student union budget, and working on student union staffing issues for the next year. So all of these things, although it's a very short list, are very, very important in the operations of the student union board. So it's important for me as a representative to continuously come up in front of you and report to you all what we're doing, but also for me to hear back from what your concerns are, what you want to see out of the board as students, and as representatives of the student body. So those are just some of the things that I have for you right now, but if you have any questions, yes, yeah.
Senator Nangangar.
I apologize if this is becoming a weekly kind of question, but do you have any information on the second student union board rep?
So I can answer that question, actually. So Arushi wanted to be here tonight. Instead, she asked me to read this out for all of you. To the members of the ASUC Senate, I am writing this letter to inform you of my intent to resign and step down as your undergraduate representative to the ASUC Student Union Board. The ASUC Student Union Board, formerly known as CSSB, has great responsibility in enabling and influencing the financial health of our student services, spaces, and government. This is an important time during which far-reaching decisions will be made about topics including the Lower Sproul Redevelopment Project. To ensure a productive working relationship, it is crucial that your undergraduate student representatives can repair relations and establish reciprocal communication streams between the ASUC and the Student Union Board. Due to other personal commitments, I will no longer be able to do justice in this role. I wish you the best for the rest of the school year and look towards seeing the great progress that will be made by the ASUC. Thank you for all your time and understanding. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions regarding my experience or decision. Best, Orishi Saxena.
Yes. And the application for the new Student Union Board rep will go up within a week. The process is very similar to the Attorney General process we're going through right now. We're going to take applications for a few weeks, then a committee will review them and appoint the new person.
So Arushi will actually be sending this email out to the Senate listserv, so all of you do have a copy of this. If you do have questions for her, feel free to reach out to her. Pavan and I have talked with her extensively, and so if you have questions about that part as well, please reach out to me or Pavan as well. Any other questions for our representative, Senator Pritzkat?
Hey, thank you. I was wondering if, comment and question, if you would be able to send us the dates for the meetings, so that, because you said they were public, so we could go. And then, I don't know if you know what the process will be to have an interim representative given Arushi's recent resignation, or what that process might look like in the coming weeks.
So, to address your first question, we are still trying to figure out the dates for our board meetings. We've traditionally or historically been very bad at kind of laying out when we're having our meetings. We haven't had our board meeting for the month of September yet, but the second I find out, I will forward you all the details so that you are all aware. Same thing for our committees. Once we figure it out, we'll send it to you all on the Senate listserv. In terms of the interim position, as far as I know, the start of the procedures would be outlined in, I believe, the CASA agreement and the Senate bylaws, correct? There's no interim position. It has to be refilled immediately. So as of right now, there will be one vacant student position until the Senate, or until the committee, sorry, appoints a new position. And I believe they'll be serving the remainder of her term.
Just a quick follow-up then. Do you know who will be chairing, given, because Arushi's the chair right now, so if in her absence we can't have an interim, do you know who will chair?
Those will be discussions that we would have to have amongst the board. So once we reconvene as a board, that's a discussion we will have right there, and we will notify you who will be elected chair. It will be a student, but it's a discussion that will have to happen at the board.
Any other questions? Okay, let's thank Ish. Next up, we have our Solicitor General, Natalia.
Hi everyone. First and foremost, thank you so much for this opportunity to speak in front of you and just be here. This is some of my staff behind me. Can you please stand here? They're going to introduce themselves in a little while, but I would like to thank you again for this opportunity. I am the Solicitor General. I'm going to tell you a little bit of what we did this summer, some of the goals that we accomplished, and also talk about future goals and what we would like to see happen, basically. So over the summer, we worked on a modernization process or project with the bylaws. We organized them in a logical manner. This is a process that started about 2 years ago, and I am confident that it will be completed this year. Kind of. I also worked on some student-parent issues such as affordability, food security, funding for the Student-Parent Center, and also student groups like SPAR. OSG, for the first time, has a staff. I was the vice president for cultural diversity at my junior college. I was an international student. I went through legal hassles to become a green card holder. So I understand that diversity in legal processes can be hard. And I believe in diversity. It is key to when writing and interpreting legal framework. Therefore, when we started to recruit, we focused on recruiting staff members who would reflect the student body. And also, we looked at the elected officials' platforms because we want to be able to help and interpret law. We want to help as much as possible in this process. We also hired staff that have policy and law background. So they either work for a courthouse, they have done some legal work, or they're interested in just working with the ASUC. So this year, my office is researching California law, ADA laws, HIPAA, city procedures, and county procedures in order to help everyone here. We are looking at things like STEM, public service communities, the Greek community, mental health, housing affordability, sexual assault issues, environmental issues. So please let us know how we can help in those matters. Our goal is to work together with Congress, with Senate, with Judicial Council, with Election Council, with Administrator to improve current processes, but also educate the students and senators and their staff members on how things work, especially with law. We would like to hold officers accountable. We would like to separate SG from AG in terms of, so that we can provide best legal advice and representation. We want to do an elections video, for example. In some, we would like to collaborate, hold officers accountable, focus on outreach, election, legislation, and transparency. I would like my staff to give you a couple of, to actually introduce themselves. This is my chief of staff, Ruby Gaston. Please go ahead.
Hello. I hope you can all hear me. My name is Ruby Gaston. I'm very excited to be Natalia's chief of staff for this year. We've been working on a lot of exciting things, including the new bylaws, an internal advisory opinion, and above all, just on staffing the new members for our office. I'm very honored to be a part of the ASUC. It's a very exciting organization, and I'm really hoping to make some positive change at this university this year. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Miguel Mauricio. I'm actually a transfer student majoring in poli-sci, and transfers. But I have some experience a little bit with student government, and hearing a lot of you guys speak has really inspired me a lot and had made me a little bit more ambitious about doing my job. And my job within the Office of the Solicitor General will be being Director of Accountability, which just means that I'll be making sure that you guys, a lot of the offices are doing what they're supposed to be doing based upon, for example, right now we're looking at past bills and how they're, how they're affecting, how they're supposed to be implemented and if they're being implemented in the right timeline. And Yeah, that's pretty much me, and Natalia thought it'd be a fun fact for me to throw this out to you guys. I thought it was pretty cool too that I won a TV through like one of those raffles at like the Cal Student Store, so go Bears.
We just wanted to thank you, and if anyone have any questions, please feel free to ask us. Yes.
Senator Nangaonkar.
Hi Natalia, thank you so much for coming. Would you mind speaking to what the entire structure of your office looks like, or what are the different positions that couldn't be here today?
So I have a chief of staff, an associated chief of staff. I have 4 directors, so 1 in elections, 1 in outreach, 1 in accountability, and 1 in legislative affairs, or legislative, yeah. And then within those 4 offices, we have 3 interns. So, and those will be reaching out and working with the senators, with Conrad, and other offices.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's all the time that we have. Let's thank Natalia. Next up, we have our finance officer, Dennis Lee.
Oh wait, hello, I fixed it. Okay, thank you. Hello, hi, my name is Dennis Lee. I am the finance officer for ASUC this year, and as well as last year. And a little bit about myself, I was a transfer student last year, so this year is my final year at UC Berkeley, and I am enjoying it so far. Okay, so let me talk about my visions for the year as finance officer. This year, I've been working closely with the EVP office in the finance department to make sure that we carry out a bunch of goals for the ASUC as a whole. For example, we're going to increase transparency in budgeting and auditing. So we want to make sure that the student body will have the general knowledge of what the ASUC budget looks like, and to make sure that we are not just being transparent with general student body, because that's who we represent. And we also want to make sure that we have the general knowledge of each student group's budget, because as of right now, each student group has been operating on its own in terms of financially. So we want to make sure that we build a bridge between ASUC and student bodies. And I'm going to work with the different executives, mainly AVP office and also the student union, in order to carry out this goal. Secondly, I want to encourage the growth of small student groups. So, for example, the first year, second year, and third year groups, they are in our finance bylaws. We have like restrictions on how much money they can receive from the ASUC. That provides a great barrier for them in terms of like growing as a club or organization. So I'm going to work with the finance committee and also Conrad to make sure that we can modify the finance bylaws to make sure that we can carry out different goals that we want to achieve. Also, I'm going to make sure that my office support the goals and visions of all your the ASUC elected officials. So I know that each of you have different platforms, different plans for the year, such as creating several funds for your community. And I want to make sure that I hear every single one of your opinion of your plan, so that I can better help you on your visions for this year. And yeah, reach out to me. Okay, I'm also going to advocate for students with the available ASUC financial resources. And I'm going to try my best to better allocate funding for various groups to support diversity in different student communities. Also, I'm going to work with different committees and different university organizations to make sure that we can find other revenue sources for the ASUC to better support Cal student groups, because every year we we increased the funding for student groups in our annual ASUC budgeting, but the thing is our revenue sources has been on the same level generally every year, so we are, like, in simple terms, we are running out of money. So we're trying to, I'm going to work with fundraising director and also different senators and also executives to make sure that we can find different sources of funding. Oh, also, lastly, I'm going to try my best to provide different opportunities for students in developing financial skills within the ASUC. So, because I know that in UC Berkeley, a lot of us are economics or finance or business majors, and I'm sure that they want to get involved with the ASUC to learn more about the funding process or just get more experience with in the financial industry. So I'm going to work with different offices to make sure that we can provide the different opportunities for our general student body. And with that being said, I am currently recruiting for assistant finance officer. So that position is mainly a year-long position, and I'm going to train that person to basically be me, so that he or she can take over my position next year. So, and I am sure a lot of students in UC Berkeley are interested in this position. So please spread the words and reach out to your communities. And yeah, okay, any questions?
Senator Gordon.
Thank you, Dennis. My question was, what are some of the specific action steps you're taking towards accountability and transparency in ASUC financing? In regards to one part spring budgeting and in other part to how our executive offices and Senate spends money.
Okay, so first of all, I'm going to work with EVP office because we are trying to provide, compile different budgets of different offices, like executives and also the Senate, to and then provide a general document to student body about how we're planning on spending our ASUC funding this year. Also, in terms of spring budgeting, I'm going to make sure that all the student groups have the sufficient information about how the process is going to look like, so that they're not confused about how it works and then not getting funding because of that. And I'm sure you all have seen the ASUC budget. I'm going to create different charts and presentations to send out to student groups to make sure that they know how much funding we spend on different categories. So let's say in ASUC funding, or advocacy, or ASUC administration, stuff like that, to make sure they know what we're using money that they paid for.
Any other questions? We have time for maybe one more. Okay, let's thank Dennis.
Thank you.
Next is the Marketing and Communications Director, Joe Wilson.
Hi, everyone. Hello? Hi, everyone. As many of the ASUC executives have echoed in their speeches, outreach to students on campus is one of the most important issues that our organization is addressing this year. Going into my second year in this role, a role that was previously unfilled, I've seen just how much work there is to do in terms of closing the gap between our student government and the student body. This year, I'm going to be working hard to bridge that gap, from our online presence to being out on campus, and to just coming together as an association to make sure that we have one cohesive image as a student government. This year, you'll see us all out on Sproul more. With a renewed tabling program, our elected and appointed officials will be out on Sproul every day, connecting with students to make sure we're being more transparent and open to students about the projects that we're all working on. And FYI for the senators, thank you for all being patient with working with me on this. I'm working with event services right now to make sure that the problems we're having are being solved. We've been off to a rocky start this week, but stay patient. The first 2 weeks are kind of a trial run, so we'll get it. You'll see the first live-streamed Senate meetings coming up within the next month. This is not only to get more students engaged in the ASUC, but also to help ASUC become more united. We want to make sure that anyone who wants to come to Senate is able to still see the Senate meetings even if they can't be here. I'm really focused on what I can do to bring all of ASUC together this year in terms of our branding and what we're communicating to the student body. ASUC has a huge presence during elections, but not the kind of presence which emphasizes all the hard work that we're doing for students on campus. We need to ensure that we maintain a strong presence on campus the whole year, not just in April. And I'm excited to work on projects this year to build up our presence and help students learn more about the resources and programs we offer as the ASUC. Thank you.
Questions for Joe? Senator Nangaonkar.
Thank you, Joe. I was just wondering how talks have been going with the Office of the President in relation to the ASUC app and what your role will be.
Right. This week I'm actually introducing a bill to Senate that will create a committee on technology and website development. What we're planning to do, just to be transparent, is convene a committee that can help select an outside company to rebuild our website because we have some money to do it and because our website needs to be addressed. This is a problem that's been a problem for years. Another thing that committee will do will also work with the app that Pavan has made and work to get that institutionalized. It's a really great resource for the ASUC. I'm really excited about how that can be used to shape how students see us, and I want to make sure that the work that he's done and his office has done is institutionalized and that it stays in the ASUC for years to come.
Senator Gordon.
Thanks, Joe. I was wondering if there are any updates on the senator video.
Right. So my team is currently working on getting out to you all the information on what we're doing with Senate update videos. As of now, we've divided you into 4 different groups for first semester, and you'll all be contacted in those groups. Basically, I think first group is Senator Gordon. I'll send you all a list of the groups. And basically you'll be contacted about the work that you're doing on campus and the projects you're working on. They'll want to interview you in a setting on campus that relates to the work that you're doing. And then we'll compile the videos, and 4 times during the semester we'll send out an update video to students about what Senate is doing. So that's the plan right now.
Senator Ramesh.
Thanks for coming, Joe. Could you update us a little bit on what the situation with the tabling is with regards to event services giving us the table, because it's been slightly unsuccessful?
So event services has a policy on tabling that's just a blanket policy that they don't reserve tables for any student groups at all, and that includes the ASUC, unfortunately. So we're working to change that because the last couple days there have been no tables, and I think that's due to some other events that have been going on campus that they've been using the tables for, because normally there should be enough tables. So I've been in contact with event services, and we're working through that issue right now. So by next week we should be able to have the tables reserved. Yes.
Thank you. Have we thought about, buying a table, maybe? Just out of curiosity.
The problem with buying a table is that somebody has to drag it down to Sproul from Hearst, and that's something we can definitely do next year, where we're in the building that's like right next to Sproul. But unless you all want to help me drag a table down to Sproul every day, I don't know how possible that's going to be. And it would be much easier to just get one reserved. So, yeah.
We have time for one more question. Senator Prescott.
Thank you, Joe. I was wondering, I know your office, you'll have a lot of work to do, but when we could expect to get ASUC logos with, specific to our offices distributed, or how that process might be facilitated, how we could help you out with that.
I actually just had a conversation with one of my staff members today, and he's busy making all of them right now. So you should get them by hopefully this weekend, Saturday night. So yeah.
Thank you. Okay, let's thank Joe. So we're actually going to move into recess for 10 minutes until 9:03. 9:03. Please be back in your seats.